Hey everyone, welcome back to Tech is Our Passion. I am Neha, the podcast where we explore how technology is shaping the world, one conversation at a time. And today we have got a powerhouse guest joining us, Bhavesh Chandra, a seasoned software architect with over 12 years of experience in building scalable, high performance systems across industries like fintech, healthcare, from redesigning legacy monoliths to architecting real time platforms with microservices, Kafka, cloud native tools, he has done it all. If you are a developer, tech lead, or someone building at scale, this episode is your blueprint. So hit that like button, subscribe, and let's dive into the mind of a true tech innovator. Hi, Bhavesh. Thank you so much for joining us today. You have been in the game for over a decade now, right? So let's get on your journey from code to cloud. Can you share like what your early days in application development looked like and how that evolved into working with big data and now AI?
Hello. Thanks for inviting me. Well, that's a very quite a known question in the beginning.
Yes.
But yes, it started, I think, back in 2011. So before even I kind of got started working anywhere, I was mostly working with one of the NGO in Bangalore. It was basically something which was started by me with few like-minded people, and we had to build a website in those early days. And that's something which kind of hooked me up with the first go-to-market product. And that was my first go-to-market product. And post-engineering, I joined an organization which was called as Vyoma Technologies. They were basically into ad technologies, and their client was Indian Railways. I got my hands dirty with hardwares and building monitoring services because they were present all across NCR, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh,
Hmm.
Maharashtra, and Karnataka region. So that's
Okay,
the first
great.
time when I got the opportunity to work on any software application which was running into the market.
Okay.
Post that, I joined Infosys as an educator. I was
Okay.
there with Infosys for 3 odd years, and there I got my hands dirty with. So right now we are working with Angular and React. So those days we had in front end JSP and servlets is something which we used to write early in 2012. So that's how I got started. And post that I met a few like-minded people again, and we kind of got started with a garage product that we had back then. Was into healthcare space, and IoT was booming into the market that point in time, and we ended up exploring into cloud services and big data technologies. So yeah, that's how it started. It has been a very long journey, specifically from the perspective of internet speed. Earlier back then, we used to have like kbs of speed, and right now we are working with GB per seconds, right? So it has been a very long journey. It's a roller
It
coaster,
is
right?
It is quite indeed. I mean, from getting your hands dirty on hardware, right, to the code, then the cloud, and now you might be working with AI as well, and working in garage, like working with startup and working with organizations like Infosys, a tech giant, right? So you have
Right.
been, on I would say quite a journey, right? So now you're working on big data, and now the AI is also in picture. So I want to, ask this question. Like, what was that aha moment when you realized AI like wasn't just a buzzword for you, but something that would shape the way you build applications?
Sure. So it was back in 2018. We
Hmm.
were basically, when I was with the healthcare, so we were building just the applications. We had our own IoT space where, new devices that we have right now, like the glucometer device, where you just put down a tickle of your blood and it will tell you in your phone how much sugar that a person have, right? So
Mm-hmm.
those devices we had, but one of my, I mean, like my CEO had gone to Tech Disrupt, which was held in, I think, Bay Area, and there he met a few startups which were from Israel, and they were doing something on the lines of cataract, which was cataract and myopia, which is basically a disorder for eyes, right?
Okay.
And we saw their innovative solution where they were taking picture of the pupil of human eyes, and they were telling
Mm-hmm.
the chances of a person
That
cataract or myopia
myopia.
over a
Okay.
period of time. right?
Mhm.
So that was the first time when we saw that, AI has built something which could actually predict future, right? And that's where we kind of got hooked into, and we had, I mean, our CEO just called us back from the US, and he said, "Hey you guys, so there is a startup who's doing, XYZ stuff in AI area. So why don't you guys explore?" So we took like a couple of days and we built an application which he actually did a pilot with a lot of users in the US when we had our own campaigns running across the United States. So that was something which we delivered, and that's when I thought that, okay, this is one of the key area which should be in my checklist, and I should be
Okay.
exploring this in the near future, and that's where I think today I'm working along.
No, that's quite a good project, I would say. I mean, early diagnosis of catching a person like cataract or myopia is a very good project which you have worked on. It might have helped many people. And I think if you can, tell a name or something like that, is it possible? Like, is it available in India right now? Something like that?
It is available. In fact, right now, if you see I mean, healthcare in India or for that matter in US, the entire diagnosis has been run with AI. A lot of diagnosis has been run
Okay.
with AI,
Okay.
and
Hmm.
the predictions that systems are doing, that is being quite equivalent to what doctor predicts. It's still not 100%, but we are getting close to like 80-90%, which is I think a good number at this stage in time.
No, 89% is very good number. I mean, anything which can predict, like if you are going to catch something which is treatable in the early time, that's a very good thing, right? Even if it's
Exactly.
89% chance, I can still try and, not to contract that and or maybe get a help, right? In the
Right.
early stages. So that's a very good
Right.
thing. Not later on whether why to regret about that, right? 89%
Exactly.
is a very good number. That's a very, very good project which you have worked on. Okay. So since we have talked about AI, and I know you have worked on microservices, like which is the backbone of AI driven system, right? So I have you question about that. Microservices, they're not new, right? But when we combined with AI or like cloud, they seem to become like a whole different beast. Okay. So why do you think microservices are a game changer? Like, okay,
Mhm.
for an AI heavy application, not like normal application, but for an application which is totally dependent on AI.
So let's understand it from an example. Okay, I'll
Okay.
just give you a very basic example. So right now
Hmm.
we have ChatGPT, we have Gemini, we have Anthropic, we have DeepSeek, a lot
Right.
of key players in the market, right? So what happens if we do a search? So suppose if I want to, like, plan an itinerary, right, to visit some XYZ places for holidays, right? I'll just go to ChatGPT and I'll say, hey, I want to visit XYZ places for 10 days of duration and show me an itinerary, right? Now, after that itinerary being shown, I exit the application, and maybe after 10 days, if I go back to the same application and if I say that, my friend is also planning to go to XYZ places, right? Can you help us with the itinerary that you had given me 10 days back? It will not have the data of what I had mentioned 10 days ago. Reason being, right now we are not working within an ecosystem. When I say ecosystem, what I mean by that is, so suppose a set
Mm.
of users who are already using Netflix, right? Now, if we cater AI on top of it, what exactly happens is the data which is there with Netflix is something will be shared with the AI models, right? That is
Mhm.
something which we called as AI agents, right?
Right.
So in the space of AI agent, what we do is we basically have our own databases. We hook that database to the AI model, and then we do the prediction based upon the data that we have available, right?
Right.
That is something which we are doing and which all the organizations are doing at this point of time.
Okay.
So this is that space which will, if suppose we are building a microservice or anything, right? So microservice is basically the bridge between my database and the AI model, right? Which will cater to all the needs of my AI, and at the same time, whatever output that I get from my AI model, right? That will be stored into my database, or it will be sitting in my own S3 bucket or anywhere for that matter, and that will give me the insights of that particular user over a period of time. And on the basis of those data, we can do some more predictions in the future. Yeah.
Okay. That's great. I mean, so this is for all the people like who want to understand, how microservices are like a game changer for the AI heavy application. This is something which you can, learn more about. So you have talked about like AI agents and everything. So do microservices, right? AI agent is something. So microservices still hold when AI applications need to operate in real time because we are feeding the data to AI agent, right?
Right.
And then we are working or like asking questions and they are replying based on the data which we have feed. Okay. So like fraud detection or live recommendations, or is it something which still hold up, or do they sometimes introduce more latency than they solve?
So if we talk in terms of microservice, I think microservices AI is not basically something which is going to replace the microservices. Rather, AI and microservices will work hand in hand. So understand it
Okay.
from the perspective of security. Just now you mentioned about fraud detection, right? Suppose if you're making a payment, right? And if suppose you are making a payment through an chat GPT or any DeepSeek or anything, right? And if you're just saying that, hey, buy me this particular device, right? It will do the payment automatic and everything. So here, what is
Okay.
required is we cannot share the card credentials and everything to the AI agents directly, right? Rather, there should be a security layer which comes on top of it. So this security layer is something which needs to be implemented in microservice. It cannot,
Okay.
we cannot, because all the organization have their own set of rules, right? If it is the healthcare,
Right.
the rules are different. In the US, there is something called as HIPAA compliance, which is specifically for healthcare related data that needs to be shared across. In case of
Okay.
cards and payments, the securities are different, right? In case of user accessibility, the layer of security and the of accounts being given, that is completely different. So if you understand it from that perspective, you will understand that, AI and microservices should go hand in hand, because we cannot simply give all our database direct access to AI and say that, do whatever you want to do with it, right? There should be
Okay.
strict and rules applied in order how data being fetched, how exactly it's been retrieved, right? So data leakage, data privacy, data policy, everything comes into the picture, and those things will be catered only through a microservice.
So I mean, is there any application which you have also built using these, or you can give people some trick about like how can they actually implement this in house, or
Sure.
when they are working on microservices or AI heavy applications, maybe something like fraud detection and something like this real time data which we're talking about. Can you give any tips or trick to them?
So I'm working with a platform right now, which is agentic commerce, which is something in the
Okay.
line of what I have mentioned, where you basically
Okay.
speak to a chat GPT and you tell them that, I want to celebrate the birthday of my son, and suggest me all the items that I need. And I can give the behavior of my son, and I can give the kind of ambience
Things,
that I
yes.
require for that for
Predictions,
that
basically.
particular occasion, right?
Hmm.
It will do the payment, it will get the item delivered. So this payment section which I just talked about, right? So that is something which I'm building right now. It uses RAGs, it uses generative AI, it uses AI agents, and
Oh,
yeah. So that is the one space where I'm working. Coming
oh,
to where I can, the tips and tricks for getting into the spaces. So idea is, if suppose we have a system already in place and we have a set of users. Now, if we just leverage AI and if we build a microservice on top of it, what it will do is it will, instead of doing a normal search, for example, if you go to Make My Trip, if you want to go from Bangalore to maybe Delhi, right? What do you
mhm.
say? You say from Bangalore to Delhi, and then
Delhi,
you
yes.
select a particular date.
Right.
Now there are total 4 to 5 fields that you need to fill in before you kind of book your tickets, right? Before it displays you the set of flights or hotels, right? Instead of that, you just have to, if suppose AI is integrated into this particular space, what will happen is you will just write one line stating, I'm visiting from Bangalore to Delhi on such and such date on such and such month. It is for 10 days. Build me the itinerary, do the bookings. It will basically take your cheapest flight or whatsoever flights that you are required.
Right. Hmm.
It will do the hotel booking. It will take care of everything and will make the payments as well. You need not make payments or you need not search for each flight separately. So this is
Oh,
the space where users can, work and kind of brush up their skills in the space of AI. They should understand the RAGs, what
hmm.
are, data models and how exactly that data needs to be extracted into the AI models, right? So this is the space where it will be really exciting, and the future is going to be this. All the platform is eventually going to use this.
You said very right. In fact, the idea which you have gave, I hope, I mean, someone have built it out, or if they haven't not, you might have given a very good idea for a startup, right? I mean, using this kind of idea, they can build something out of it, right? It can make many people life easier rather than going to a company who does this all for you. Maybe you can use AI for it, right? That's a very great idea, which I can. Okay, so moving on, let's talk about, like, you have worked in Kubernetes, you have worked in DevOps and Docker. You know, now DevOps in the AI era, right? I mean, this is something which everyone is like dealing about. Many people are saying DevOps will change. When people are saying development will change, their jobs will be gone, and all that thing. But you have worked a lot with Docker and Kubernetes, right? And for someone looking to scale their AI workloads, how critical are the orchestration tools like these?
If you talk in terms of orchestration tools, right now there are agent orchestrators which are available into the market, which will basically do a lot of manual activities that was being done earlier. So suppose
Okay.
in case of Docker, if suppose I have 10 pods of 10 different
Mm.
microservices which have been deployed in my queue. Earlier, if suppose one of the pod is going down, we have to manually go there and kind of we can definitely provide the strategy that if it is going beyond the threshold of the CPU, it should restart or it should rescale, right? But even those steps were very manual, right? You have to give
Right.
a set of rules. But in the world of AI, there are agent orchestrator which is being used where you need not provide any data, you need not provide any details. Based upon the system usage and system behavior, it automatically scales or descales itself, and it gives you the insight of the entire performance of your system on heavy load days and on, like, when you have very less footfall of the users. Yeah.
Okay, great. So since you have told me about like these AI agent orchestration tools, can you walk us through like a project where container orchestration really made a difference? Something like real people that can relate to.
Okay. So there's one example of I was using in one of the big organization. I was using Spark and Kafka, basically data and data transformation. So in
Okay.
that project, I remember when we built the Kafka engine, it was built from scratch. We had our Kafka cluster where there were worker nodes. Now the
Mhm.
problem with the worker nodes were we had to, if there is any troubleshoot that needs to be provided, we have to manually go into each of the worker and understand the dynamics of that particular server that's been run. Right now, even Confluent have started their own Kafka services, which is called as Confluent Kafka. So in Confluent Kafka, what they're doing is you need not do the management of each of these systems. Rather, the Confluent Kafka takes care of it. There's a small price that you need to pay for it, but yeah, eventually
Okay.
they'll provide you all the solution. But even they have a set of checklists that will basically drive this particular work. But in the era of AI, I think it is not very well explored and very well thought through at this point in time. But yes, going forward, we will have a self-orchestrated systems where you did not do the management of how exactly my system or the data has been behaving on a particular payload, right? So this is basically the area which is still in progress, I would say. It is not very well adapted by organization at this point in time. But in the
Mhm.
very near future, we'll see that how Kafka and the agent workers, which I just mentioned, will help us to orchestrate the entire services, and it will be like no man needed sort of work going forward.
Hmm. Great. So you're saying the AI is not well explored right now, and companies are still like working on. People are still working. So people often discuss about like AI, where it actually sits in the system, and like what in your view is how we transform the real world problem. Okay, because everyone is using AI in terms of the chatbot or like writing a content or writing emails. But few people are there who are actually trying to solve the real world problem, right?
Right.
So what is your view on it? How we transform the real world problem using AI?
So let's take an example of stock marketing. So earlier there was stock trading pundits who were there who used to come into a lot of news channels, business news channels, and then to
Right,
speak
right.
about a lot of predictions for the day in the intraday trading space, right? Right
Mhm.
now, and eventually there was something called as bed testing, which was introduced, where you
Yes.
take the the previous year's stock data, and then you train your model, and then it will do the predictions whether
Mm,
the price will go up, whether the market is bullish or bearish.
mm.
Right now, there are AI agents available in the market which will do the stock predictions for you. It will tell
Okay.
you which stock to buy, when to hold, when to do the short selling, and
Right.
when
Yes.
exactly to kind of convert it into equity cash or something, right? So this space is something which is, I think, after the space of using it for image generation and writing emails, this is the
Mm-hmm.
first area who has picked up AI very seriously, and they are
Right.
doing really, really well at this point in time into the market.
That said very truly. I mean, there are AI and people are looking at it. I don't know, I mean, how much success it is because I am not into the stocks right now or I haven't used it. But definitely, I mean, because, in the previous time as well, trusting a person who is telling you stock will go up or the stock will go down, there will come kind of up and downs, pros and cons of it, right? Using
Right.
AI, doing the same, I would say yes, because AI is not biased, or maybe sometimes it is biased, but looking at the statistics, it is giving you some right data, right? But still, I would say, I mean, yes, it has solved a real world problem. Still, the development is going on, and I would love to see how it is evolving further, right? So, coming on to like this problem which has been solved, or this problem which has been like working on, is there any real world problem that you have solved using LLM or agents you might have worked on?
So the current project which I mentioned, apart from this, I had worked on one similar problem which I explained about the Make My Trip. So it was basically
Right.
an itinerary planner, and where it would give you the streets where exactly you need to go for if you're going for a holiday, what time you should go, what not, and the predictions in terms of which market will be right for you when you go based upon the age criteria, based upon the kind of places that you want to visit, right? So this is one space where I kind of had worked in. So yeah, that is one of the exploration which I did for, I mean, when I was working for freelancing work.
Okay, great. Now, I mean, since you're already working on, that's a very good idea. Please let me know once it's complete. I would love to, book my trip of using that. Right. So
Certainly.
everyone is talking about GenAI. And you have also said, like, I mean, people are working on it, but sometimes they face this issue whether they are going in a right direction or not. Actually they are using AI to the potential or not. Like, right? But very few are actually shipping it in production. What's your framework or checklist you have before deploying a Gen AI feature? Like, this will help our viewers to maybe check this list which you have given to take off, right?
So if we talk in terms of AI and Gen AI, right? So we have to understand what exactly Gen AI means. So AI
Right.
is basically a prompt that will help you analyze things. Gen AI is the result of that analysis, is something called as generative AI. So for example, if I want to create an image, if I want to create a document, if I want to create a video or anything, right? So that is nothing but a generative AI. So if you
Okay.
talk in terms of the exploration around it, I think the real world use cases right now is not very well leveraged. It will
Mhm.
certainly take a little while, but yeah, eventually it'll come into the market with good use cases. Now I take this more like uh, there was a point of time when Web3 and decentralized applications was booming into the market. It was right when the COVID hit, right? For example, the blockchain and everything. So we still have not found out any real-time use cases of it. In case of generative AI, it is already helping a lot of people with a lot of use cases. But if you talk in terms of in any of the sectors right now, uh, at this point of time, I have not seen the real usage of this in terms of helping
Okay.
any of the sectors. For example, healthcare. None of the images of healthcare would, I mean, like generated image will help me in the healthcare. But yes, certainly in terms of studies, if you talk about, certainly the great help in case of medical arts science student, they can have their AR vision, and the doctors or the professors can create generative AI videos, which can help them to understand the human anatomy and things like that, right? So that is one of the
Right.
key spaces. In the world of simulation, it can really help for traffic air traffic control, or like flight simulators, or drone simulations, right? So these are the spaces where it can help, where there is a requirement of having a view system, right? That is
Hmm.
one of the area where it can help. But in other places, right now, I have not seen a lot of use cases which have been like, floating into the market at this point.
Okay. No, I mean, there was a recent news which I have read, maybe that might
Hmm.
not have. So they have the FDA, right? The drug approval FDA. They have
Hmm.
created their own AI that is called ELSA, which they are using for the drug approval process. So they're trying to cut the drug approval timing, which takes long enough for them, right?
Right,
To sometime using Gen AI or like AI specifically. But I don't know, I mean, how much it is valid or that thing, because they have just used that in two particular sector, okay, within the
right,
healthcare industry. And if that's successful, then only they'll go ahead and, publish it to two different other sectors, right?
right.
But there's one thing which I want to know. So using Gen AI, I mean, AI has hallucination problems, right? If you provide a correct input, still sometime it give you wrong output with their own
Right,
mind, right? Because it's
right.
sometimes it lacks human empathy. It has some certain kind of biasness or whatever data you feed on, it gives you a certain output, right? So how do you manage the hallucinations or like control the outputs? Okay, in the case of like FBA is saying like in the production settings, basically when it's actually going forward and without any person, it is doing its own work.
So the main reason for this hallucination that you talked about is basically the data correction. So let's understand it
Okay.
from programming perspective. So right now
Mhm.
the Chat GPT and all the LLMs that we have in the market, right? If you give it any problem to solve, it will solve based upon the training that it has been done, right? Now this training is not something which is being done on the recent code changes. So even all the LLMs will have, if which is specific to programming, I'm talking, it will tell you that, we are only able to capture data till 2018 because it has been
Mhm.
trained only on the data till 2018. Post 2018, if there is any library which has been introduced into the market, I will not be able to provide you solutions about it. Now,
Okay.
if suppose something has released in 2024, right, and if
Mhm.
we require a solution for that. So now what is the idea? The idea is to keep feeding in my LLM with the recent data. Now,
Okay.
considering that LLM is not owned by a single entity, right?
Mhm.
It is,
Mhm.
and it is a very general abstract layer, right? So now this abstraction can only read data over a certain period of time. It cannot read data on the daily basis. So here is where our own microservices will help us. So when suppose in case of the healthcare that you had talked about, the India had its own AI engine, right? So
Yes.
there, what they're doing is they're basically feeding in the medical all the practices that has been done in the previous
Yes.
and
Right.
all the tests that has been proposed and all the tests that has been done. So it gives you the measures that needs to be taken into consideration in order to give you some results, right? Now this is nothing but their own system which is having the record of all the medical data, right? But
Mhm.
there, they also must have a stopping point. For example, like 2021 is the time till when the data has been fed. Post 2021,
Mhm.
we don't have any other data. Now, if suppose in the microservice, whatever data, the new data that has been captured post 2021, if those data will also be fed into my database. And
Mhm.
eventually, what will happen is that database data will go into my LLM. Now,
Mhm.
that LLM will be able to rethink and redesign the entire solution based upon the current data, right? So this is
Right.
where it will be a game changer. So that's why I said that AI and microservice will go hand in hand. If I want my own system to kind of like behave in a LLM model
Mhm.
proposition. Yeah.
Right. Great. Great. A very good point. Okay. So, we have cloud, we have AI, a lot of things, right, in the technical industry. So, when you're designing an AI first architecture, right, how do you decide between AWS, Azure, or GCP? I mean, is it more about the features or the cost or team familiarity with the cloud?
Uh, that's a good question. It actually depends upon the kind of problem I'm solving. If it is a bootstrap startup,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I think cost is the first and the primary thing for them, and they should not.
Yes.
They have to be frugal about what they are actually using, right?
True.
So, so cost comes first for them. If it is high in security, I think
Mm-hmm.
the features with respect to security, which particular cloud service will be able to deliver, that comes into the picture first for them. right?
Right.
So it is completely about the problem that we are solving. And eventually, over a period of time, if suppose it's a bootstrap startup and if they are using GCP, right? And if suppose they would require to use AWS in future, they can definitely migrate it in future, right? But not at a very early stage. So for somebody who's trying to practice or to get started with, I think in whichever space they are into, whichever particular cloud service they are using, they should continue with that unless there should be a pressing issue which comes into the picture where they have to actually migrate it to a different cloud services, but they'll be getting their XYZ features into place.
If you're passionate about how technology is shaping our world, be sure to subscribe our channel Tech is Our Passion and share this episode with a friend. And don't forget to check out our weekly tech news shorts where I break down the biggest stories that actually matter. Until next time, keep exploring and creating with technology.